Good evening, Bahamas. On the broadcast tonight, the deputy leader of the Free National Movement slams the Christie administration on crime. This as the country records its latest murder after a man was shot. And just how will the upcoming general election affect Junkanoo Carnival? Welcome to our news, the weekend edition, and thanks for joining us. I'm Andrew Knowles. Free National Movement Deputy Leader Peter Turnquest says he's not surprised by the rise in violent crime during the past nearly 5 years of the Christie administration. Turnquest says the PLP has been asleep at the wheel, allowing crime to gradually spiral out of control. Jasmine Brown reports.
I think this is, the second or the third year of record-breaking murders. And that's not to speak of all of the other shootings and other crimes that have been happening.
Earlier this month, Christie said the recent spate of murders in New Providence was reminiscent of the Wild West. His comments came days after a weekend of bloodshed in which 7 murders were recorded. In response to the spike in violence, National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage announced more than a dozen crime-fighting initiatives in the House of Assembly. Turnquest called the response weak.
Nothing that he said was novel or new or innovative in terms of how we're going to approach this situation. In fact, if you were to go back to their Charter of Governance, most of what he said was included in that document. And so I think it is an incredible admission of failure or dereliction of duty to come now, 5.5 years later, after 600 murders, to now say that you're going to implement the plan that you promised the Bahamian people that you're going to put in place. But what were you doing for the last 5 years?
The F&M deputy leader says the fact is too many people have lost their lives in senseless acts of violence. He adds that it's obvious there is no quick fix to the problem.
Quite frankly, we in the F&M still do not believe that this government gets it, that they understand what is driving this crime and how to effectively address it. The truth of the matter is that we have a social problem, an economic problem that is manifesting itself in crime and in misbehavior by individuals who feel that their backs are against the wall and they just have no other options. We have to approach this thing, as Marvin Dames has said, from a multi-faceted approach, where we look at the social aspects of what is driving the kind of behaviors that we see. From the economic aspect, where people feel that they have no hope, that there is no opportunity for them, and we have to look at it from the law enforcement and from the rehabilitation aspect of it. And so, there's no quick fix, unfortunately, to the situation, but we have to start somewhere.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Meanwhile, residents of Ferguson subdivision were awakened by the sounds of gunshots this morning after a man was fatally shot in the area. According to police, the victim, who was believed to be in his early 20s, was sitting on a wall around 7 a.m. when a lone gunman exited a dark-colored vehicle and opened fire on the man. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Chief Superintendent Clayton Flanander, told us what officers discovered while on the scene.
On preliminary inquiries and examination of the scene, it appears though the deceased may have been selling drugs in the area. The scene is telling us we found a number of foil wrappings of suspected marijuana. So that is a line of inquiry that we are following.
As police are on the hunt tonight for the suspect behind this morning's homicide, they are pleading for the public's usual assistance with any information concerning the incident. Fernandez says this latest killing is just another indication of what happens to those who participate in illicit activities.
The end results, if you continue in the life of crime with respect to the sale of drugs, the sale of firearms, the prolific offenders who continue to offend. This will be the end results if you don't cease what is happening or what you continue to do, the lifestyle of the individual.
While some have called for the Bahamas to abandon the Privy Council as its final court of appeal, outspoken attorney Fred Smith says he doesn't see any reason that should happen.
The Privy Council is under our Constitution, the final court of appeal of the Bahamas. And I believe it should remain so. I am not one of those that promote changing that. It is our window into the real world because the Bahamas is a small country, it's a small jurisdiction, and if we get closeted in our own insular thinking, we may never have access to a broader jurisprudence that exists in the rest of the world.
Over the years, many have criticized the Privy Council. The calls intensified following the March 2006 Privy Council ruling that mandatory death sentence in the Bahamas was unconstitutional. Last year, retired Justice Neville Smith QC insisted the country should not allow itself to become a hostage to the Privy Council and recommended that the Bahamas set up its own final court of appeal rather than continue to, quote, perch on the British government's doorstep. Smith says he just doesn't see it that way.
The Privy Council is also the Supreme Court, or many of their members are members of the Supreme Court of the UK. And so it's important that our jurisprudence continues to have a broader input.
The Judicial Committee of the Privy Council was in town this past week where they heard a number of criminal and civil matters. From the political beat tonight, the Progressive Liberal Party ratifying its final group of candidates with great fanfare at the party's headquarters last night. However, the PLP has yet to confirm the final candidate for the Freetown constituency. The party delayed the planned ratification for the seat in the wake of a contentious meeting in the constituency on Thursday, during which battling factions for former area MP Frank Smith and party newcomer Wayne Monroe faced off. It's a matter Prime Minister Perry Christie said will be resolved without conflict very soon. As for the ratified 5 candidates, they are former Royal Bahamas Defence Force Commodore Clifford Butch Scavalla for Central and South Eleuthera. Senator Julian Russell gets the nod again for Central Grand Bahama, while former Senator Cheryl Bazard will contest the new St. Barnabas constituency. Attorney Glendon Roll was ratified for Long Island, and Doctors Union President Dr. Charles Clark will run in the Sanans constituency. Still to come on our news.
Former Deputy Prime Minister Brent Simonette weighs in on low voter registration turnout. That story is coming up straight ahead.